Tell me if this sounds familiar. You're starting your workday. You grab a coffee, open your software of choice, and a software update. Again. Wasn't there just one of these last week? How many features can they have added since then? Now, we've all done this at some point and it might seem harmless, but it's really not. And these updates don't only happen to Chrome and Skype, they're an intrinsic part of maintaining all software, including the systems which companies rely on every single day. So if you want to hit Remind Me Later on your own computer, hey, it's your funeral. But you really don't want one of your developers doing the same on your essential systems. Because most of these updates aren't about exciting new features, they're about security. And what they contain are called patches. A patch is, well, exactly what it sounds like. Think of those denim patches you might put on torn jeans, which fix a small tear before it becomes a much bigger problem. It's the same idea here. If a company discovers a vulnerability in its software, it releases an update containing a small patch to correct the problem. Sure, it may seem like the update didn't do anything, but that's because most patches fix things you've never even been aware of. How bad could a vulnerability be? Well, why don't you ask Equifax, who in September 2017 lost 148 million customers' data, costing the firm $1.4 billion. That's a big price to pay for what basically comes down to a single web server with some out-of-date software. In this instance, a patch for the flaw had been released 2 months earlier, but most likely, someone, somewhere, did exactly what most people do. I don't have time for an update. I'll do it later. But they never did. And that had some pretty serious consequences for Equifax and further afield. In 2018, the EU enacted the GDPR, which allows companies who are negligent with their customers' data to be fined up to 4% of their annual turnover. The same year, California passed a law allowing companies to be fined up to $750 per violation for data breaches. To put that in perspective, in Equifax's case, that would be close to $111 billion. So, in order to avoid shelling out the GDP of a medium-sized country, companies need to release patches regularly. For some, like Microsoft, this means once a week, and those start to add up. So in order to be crystal clear about which version is which, we use a system called semantic versioning, which splits the version number into 3 parts, each representing a different kind of update: major updates, minor updates, and patches. Imagine you're using a piece of software which provides an online storefront for florists. The first release of the software is version 1.0.0. However, a week after release, someone spots a security flaw. The company releases a patch, and our third number ticks over to 1. A month later, someone at the company has a brainwave. What if the software could sell chocolates too? They write a whole new chocolate module and release it in an update. Now, this isn't a patch, it's a feature. So this is version 1.1.0. As time goes on, more flaws, more patches, more updates, more version numbers. A year later, the company decides to change its business model to focus exclusively on selling fuchsias, which requires a complete overhaul to clear out all the old and outdated functions, as well as implementing the new ones. This update becomes version 2.0.0. You'll notice the second and third numbers reset here, and that's because, in essence, we're looking at a whole new platform with new updates and new patches, so those start again from 0. This is great, an efficient system that makes it easy to stay up to date, so the critical patches can be applied quickly, protecting customer data and companies' bank balances. It's worth remembering, though, that there's still a delay between a vulnerability being found, a patch being released, and the user updating the software. And until then, the software remains vulnerable. This is a complex topic, and it definitely warrants some further reading to cover some of the things we simply don't have time to talk about here. But really, the takeaway is a simple one: install your updates. It'll never seem like a convenient time, but believe me, installing them as soon as they're released is far more convenient than 5 minutes after a data breach. So just set them installing and look at those few minutes as a gift. Get a coffee, stretch your legs. If nothing else, just sit peacefully at your desk and bask in the knowledge that you'll probably never have to explain to your boss how you cost your company $1.4 billion.